Hi, I'm Allan McKay. Welcome to my channel. I help artists in visual effects, games, and design level up their skills and their career while getting paid what they're worth, treating their career as a real business. And I've been in visual effects for 25 plus years, working for Industrial Light and Magic, Ubisoft, Activision, Blur Studio, as well as having a podcast in the top 200 on iTunes in the career section with over 300 episodes. I want to help artists get the success that they deserve and land their dream job. So recently I gave a talk on how to earn money as an artist, and I wanted to share this particular piece with you around how to raise your prices as an artist and understanding specifically how to get out of that rut of competing on price against every single other artist, and how to build a strategy around building a more successful career, especially on the taboo subject of money. Finally, if you have any questions or anything specifically related to this video, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, as well as any other suggested topics loosely around this that you'd like to see too. I'll definitely check it out. I'm happy to reply to every single comment I see. Thanks again, and let's dive into this lesson. I want to get into a topic that a lot of us have resistance around, which is raising our rates. Usually there's the issue because we're afraid we're going to disqualify customers by doing this. And I think this will just be fun, and I'm going to try to make it all specifically around profiting and money as an artist in visual effects, games, design, and other creative industries. So I think it's really important. I think it's also a very taboo subject that most people don't talk about. So I want to get into a lot with both, let's say, selling assets online, creating your side hustle, a lot of different topics, including touching on NFTs and also around even the topics of launching your own studio, putting in bids, a lot of different things. So knowing when to raise your prices is really critical here. And a lot of us get that resistance in the beginning, that if we raise our prices too high, then what's going to happen is we're going to scare away our clients. We're going to lose jobs. And that's kind of the idea, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But just to get us all aligned, it doesn't matter if you are further in your career. If so, then this is actually actionable right now. Whereas for the rest of us, maybe who are starting our career, we're going to be in a different pocket where we're just trying to get jobs. And yeah, raising our prices is nice, but initially it's just about getting that initial revenue. The beginning of our career, the focus is just get any job, right? That's where we're focused. And that means typically we're going to be getting low paying clients. We're ready to take on anything that we can find. And that usually means that we're going to be the ones who, because we don't have experience or anything else to shop around, we're essentially going to be positioned, our brand will be positioned as being on the lower end, which means that we're cheap, right? And there's no real way around that. Later on, we're able to leverage a lot of different aspects of our brand. And I'm going to say brand, not in the sense of logos and all the other crap that a lot of us associate with, but really what a brand is, which is our position in the market, how people perceive us, and whether or not they're willing to pay us higher rates. In the beginning, our brand, because we don't have much to go with, means that we're a lot cheaper. Usually, we're going to be taking on low-paying clients, which are the biggest headache of all. And that's because we're desperate. We just want to get job after job after job. But to be profitable at all, what we're going to need to do is we're not going to get paid much, so we need to take on a lot more work. So the focus is get as many clients as we can, because typically, let's say a client pays us $200 for a project that we do, and it's like a 1 week turnaround. Well, usually we might have to take on, let's say, 8 clients to make $1,600. That's going to be what we're doing every week, 8 different masters that we're all catering to. The worst part of all this is that cheaper clients are usually the bigger headache. They're the ones that are trying to squeeze you dry for everything. They're going to micromanage you because they're not used to hiring and they're not used to working on bigger projects. They're usually not aware of like what they really want. And they're also terrible at communicating. There's all these different things that come into play when you're working with like the bottom of the barrel kind of clients. And unfortunately, a lot of us experience that at the beginning of our career as well. We basically come in not knowing any better, and we're also desperate for work. And ultimately, we're taking on jobs with people that 10 years from now we would never work with, because right away, the questions we'd ask, or just in general, our BS meter would be going off saying, these are not our clients. But in the beginning, different story. if we're making, let's say, 1,600 a week, that would require us to be doing 8 different jobs all the time. So we're spread very thin all the time. And ultimately, that means you're not delivering quality. What it means is that you're going to be really focused on delivering work as fast as it can be and as cheap as it can be. Quality at that point isn't really sustainable. That's the tricky thing, is that in the beginning, you're not doing great work because you don't have the time, you don't have the budget, and ultimately the clients you're going for is just about turning it out fast. That's where like Fiverr and Upwork and other places like that can actually be a good market ground, because they have the audience, or in other words, the customers, and you're going to them. But you're going to be competing with so many people that you are going to be competing on a lower price. We all know the fast, cheap, good triangle, right? So we can only do 2, which is you can either do fast and cheap, you can do good and fast, but it's going to be expensive. Either way, we're not ever going to be able to do all 3. And like I said, ultimately, in the beginning, we're not focused on quality as much as we are focused on just trying to remain slightly profitable. And it's not even profitable when you are burning yourself out nonstop, because it isn't sustainable long term to be doing that with so many different clients. And like I said, the worst kind of clients. The beginning of your career, the goal is always going to be consistency. It's about bringing clients in. And that goal, hopefully, changes over time. When I talk about brand, there's a lot of things that I think are really important. Later in your career, it's so critical. It's the difference between you being a successful artist or an unsuccessful artist, because ultimately, the ones without brand are usually the ones that are frustrated they're not getting the results they want. In the beginning, we're not focused on brand, and that's the big problem. So if we were to start thinking about that, the idea of brand is not what is my brand going to be. It's more about working on building a brand over time. In other words, our reputation, the quality of work that we do, or at least the perception of the quality of work that we do. And that ultimately is like what we're going to be using to attract better quality clients. Because in the beginning, we're just trying to survive. And if you picture this like a video game, and you're being like swarmed by hordes of enemies, monsters, zombies, I don't know. The whole idea of that is that you're just fighting to live. You're not focused on, well, how do I get the upper hand? Or, what else could I be doing? Or, where's the treasure over there? You're literally just thrashing around trying to get out of this situation that you're in. And that's really what we should be focusing on in the beginning, is doing the work, burning ourselves out, but trying to put a dent in building up our clientele and building up good relationships, getting paid. But ultimately, it's about trying to build a brand around what we're doing, around like what we want to be doing. So if you picture yourself thrashing around, trying to kill a bunch of zombies, trying to fight for your life, in the background, this is where we should be really focused more on what's our exit strategy. How are we going to get out of this endless fast and cheap loop that we're in and move more into an area where people actually appreciate the work that we do. They come to us because of our reputation, and they pay us what we're worth because they love the work that we ultimately have been putting out. You can't do that when you're not doing quality work. But if you are to learn to, first of all, work on building relationships and customer experience, those 2 factors with every client that we bring in should be a really big focus, because what that ultimately means is that we're going to get repeat business, and we're going to get word of mouth as well. So repeat business being reoccurring customers, as well as new potential customers from the word of mouth of the people we've already worked with. How we can do all of this is through promoting the good work. So in other words, we be selective about our portfolio in the beginning. So while we're serving the cheap bunch, we're building up our social media. We're putting out content showing the work that we've done, but selectively choosing the work that is good and trying to do it in a way that might attract the clients that we ultimately want to get. And that's the big goal, is that eventually we'll get the clients that we actually want to work with. I was just talking with Stuzer earlier today on Instagram. He's got a big following, does a lot of selling NFTs as well as personal work. It was just interesting talking with him, because it's exactly what he experiences, like having, and same thing with Beeple when I was chatting with him, like having his style of work out there it means that he gets recognition for that type of work. And it means that more of the clients that he wants to work with come to him. They're not going to say like, hey, Beeple, can you make us a corporate logo? Occasionally they have, but usually it will be, hey, we love the style that you did here. Can you do something like that for us? Same thing with Stuzo. Like he was just saying that Busta Rhymes hit him up yesterday saying, I love your work. I want to work with you, blah, 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 blah. And like that ends up attracting the right kind of clients you want. Through building relationships, customer experience, these are two areas that I think in the beginning of our career we neglect, but this is how you get customers to come back again and again, repeat business. But it also means word of mouth. They're going to recommend you for other jobs. If you have clients going around saying, Claire or John, they do phenomenal work, go check them out. That's going to expand your client list. And again, in the beginning, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get as many clients as we can. The problem with word of mouth is the word is cheap. In other words, they're coming along saying, go work with Claire. She's really talented and her prices are like so affordable. And again, ultimately it means that they have that expectation that you're going to be cheap. That's the kind of problem we wrestle with. Now, as I mentioned before, with like good customer experience and trying to raise the bar and quality where you can, and again, like you're going to have to pick and choose the projects you do because you can't do that for every job, knowing that if you're serving like 8 clients in the beginning, it's too much. Again, fast and cheap, not quality. Where you can, you pick and choose the projects that you think this is going to be a portfolio piece. This is what I'm going to use as bait to try and attract the higher quality clients. That's where you do those projects where you put in a little bit more. And it's about, over time, delivering as much value as you can. So that way your brand or the perceived value of it is premium. In other words, you're trying to position yourself as a higher quality artist to attract higher quality clients. You put in the effort to make quality on the select projects that you think are going to be the portfolio pieces. Meanwhile, with your brand, those are the ones that you're putting out there. So the perception isn't, look at the crappy logo here and the YouTube banner here and all the crap you're doing. You're not showing that stuff when it comes to your personal brand. You might be showing that on Upwork. You might be showing that on Fiverr. You're not showing that in your home base, in your home brand. And that means what people do see is only the best work, which represents you and represents the quality that you are willing to put out. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And over time, your brand, your reputation, the content you put out is going to attract better clients. The good big problem with having reoccurring or repeat business from clients is that you're going to get more clients coming back again and again. So as people are indoctrinated into your brand, into your customer base, if they keep coming back occasionally, it means that bit by bit you're growing your customer base, which means eventually it's not sustainable, because having old clients coming back for work while you're constantly trying to get new clients, it means that you've got exponential growth, which means that eventually you're going to bottleneck yourself in a way that you can't handle the bandwidth. You can't handle all these jobs. Already, if you're doing 8 different projects for 8 different clients, even if they are fast turnaround, half-a-day projects, simple things, after a while, you can't keep that up. And that's the tricky thing too, is that you might be making good money. Like I said, let's say $200, 8 clients a week, that's $1,600 a week. That might be good money to be able to survive on, but it's not good money to retire on. Eventually, you're going to burn out, and eventually, you're not going to have any money. You can't take time off, and it's the worst kind of loop to be in the beginning of your career, because there's no exit. Like I said, if you're a video game fighting swarms of zombies, there's no exit strategy. There's no, okay, I'm defending myself, but there's no end in sight, right? And that's why we want that side hustle. We want to be working on the side, building out a premium brand, which is going to attract the bigger clients. If you have one client paying you $200, the other's $200, but then one premium client comes in and they're like, well, I'm willing to pay you $500. Well, congratulations. That is worth 2.5 of the other client, right? And that's ultimately what we want to get to. We want to start eliminating the cheap clients and bringing in more premium clients over time. This isn't something that happens right away, but if you're not putting intent behind attracting those more higher class clients, then you will be in that infinite loop, and eventually you'll crash. But if you are working on that, eventually you'll get that client who comes in that substitutes 2.5 clients for one, the higher quality client, the better they are to work with on so many different levels. Just interaction alone, they typically know what they want. The more expensive, like let's say if we go further and say instead of $500, they're paying you $2,000. And that might sound ridiculous going from 200 to 2,000, but most of us do not realize how undervalued we are. So we're charging a rate that actually is so low that people just assume the quality they're getting, even if it is great, is actually not that good because they're paying $200 for it. So in their mind, and this is how a lot of clients think, they're getting a $200 value product. But if you raise your rates, eventually, you're going to attract the right people who appreciate the work you're doing and are excited to work with you. But on top of that, they're hands off. Like they're busy being successful. They're not busy being cheap. So it means they're not micromanaging. And on top of that, like they typically know what they want. So they're not going to say, hey, I want you to do a custom piece of Venom. And then after a while be like, you know what? I feel like I'd like Thor, actually. I changed my mind. And then you got to do 2 jobs instead of 1 because in the beginning you don't have that pushback. You're not willing to say, F you, this was the brief. You're not treating it as a professional job. And again, cheaper clients aren't really treating it like a business either. So there's just so many negative aspects to the cheap client, whereas the better clients you work with, the more easy it is to work with them. Problem is, when you are getting more clients, like when you are actively saying, gotta get work, gotta get work, gotta get work, eventually you're going to get new clients coming in, you got repeat business coming in, and because you've been focused on building relationships during that time, they're excited to work with you, but eventually you're going to start pissing people off because either one or two things is going to happen. You're now taking on too many projects, which means the quality starts to go down because you're spread too thin, and that's a thing. So suddenly you're working on 12 projects because even though you might be wanting to pursue that much money, you kind of have to because otherwise you're going to upset your clients. And that's the thing is a lot of the time we'll upset them anyway because we're either going to say yes to everyone and then spread ourselves too thin and not be able to deliver, or the quality we deliver is really bad, or we're going to start turning people away. Sorry, I'm too busy right now. The return clients are going to feel underappreciated because they came to you because there's that loyalty, but they feel like you're not reciprocating. New clients are going to be like, oh, well, it must be nice that you're so busy and so important that you can't take on my work. You must be killing it, or whatever the hell they think. But secretly, you're barely getting by and you're stressed. And like I said, there's no exit in sight because what do? You don't have money put away to be able to get out of this circle. So again, it always comes back to the same thing that we should be doing is working on a premium brand to start attracting premium clients. And that means that the work that we do, 80% we throw out the window. We never tell a soul that we worked on this crappy logo or whatever it might be. But we are selectively picking the ones that we're like, you know what? I'm going to work late on this. I'm going to really put my heart and soul into it. I'm going to make this amazing to impress the client, but also as a portfolio piece. And that way I can show it off to other people, attract other people who want that level of quality as well, who are willing to pay for it as well. If the money isn't right, you can't keep up the pace for forever. And at the same time, if our metric that we're focused on is get more clients and that equals more money, then when we are getting too many clients, that's when we realize we can't scale. Because you can't get more clients. There's only one of you, there's only a certain amount of time in the day. So as more people start lining up saying, hey, hire me, and like I said, you're either going to lose them and piss them off or degrade the quality that you're putting out, you're in the situation where you can't do more, And that's where we're faced with one or two things, which is we either scale our rates or we're going to scale our resources. So that's really important to think about because scaling our resources means hiring more people. And that sounds like the logical thing. If there's too much work for me, I'm going to get my friend who, does the same work as me, or my competitor. You might have competitors that usually you're fighting in the beginning with to try and get clients from them and vice versa. But this is a chance to syndicate. In other words, for you to start teaming up with certain people you trust. And it means that if they have too much work, then they're going to pass you work and vice versa. So in theory, that sounds good, like scale up. In other words, if I have too much work, maybe I hire a friend and I'll manage them, and it just means I can, give them half the workload. If the budget isn't there, though, that means a lot of problems start to pop up because, you might be initially paying at cost, the cheap rates that you're going for, but ultimately you're now interfacing with the client, you're now managing another person, and on top of that, doing quality assurance. You're making sure that the quality that you put out, if you hire someone who's cheaper than you or someone who's equal or better than you, you still need to make sure that the quality is consistent with what the client is expecting to see. Meanwhile, you're focusing on trying to get new business and everything else. Scaling with resources first, or scaling resources, isn't really going to be a good solution in the beginning because the budgets still need to expand, which means that we want to scale our rates. That ultimately is what we want to do. We want to remove us from the bottleneck later, but right now we need to scale our rates to profit. So hopefully this is all making sense to you guys. Now, I want to get to the meat of this because I'm explaining the problem, I'm explaining what we typically do where we think these are the solutions and they're not. Like I said at the very beginning, a lot of the time it's more that we're undervalued. We're charging $200 when we should be charging $2,000 for most of the stuff that we're doing. We just don't know how to do it. But more importantly, and this is the big one, we're afraid that if we raise our prices, we're going to scare away the clients. Okay? That's the big thing that keeps us from raising our prices, because we're like, well, if I do that, they're going to say F you, and they're going to go to the other cheap person. They're not going to go to me anymore. When you're at the point when you're bottlenecked, you've got too much work coming in because you're so cheap and yet so talented that everyone wants to take advantage of you. And you've got a long line going out the door of people saying, I'd love to take advantage of you. So, where do I sign up? Now, that's exactly the point where we can't take any more work. We're annoying people because we're turning them away. Ultimately, the plan shouldn't be to turn them away. The plan should be for them to turn us away. That's really important for all of us to understand. That the big fear that we have, that if we raise our prices, our clients are going to walk away. It's like, yeah, the cheap clients are going to walk away. The cheap ones are going to say, that's ridiculous. I'm only going to pay you $200. I can find some other bozo and pay them $200. That's the exact ones that we want to filter out. It becomes natural selection. This is something I've done so much in my career, but I've also coached so many artists on this where they've managed to 10x or 20x their rate, because what they've done is they've filtered out the clients who are bad. They've said, okay, you don't appreciate the quality of work that I do. You're not willing to pay me what I'm worth. So at this point, if you're not interested in working with me, that's okay. Because now what you want to be starting to do is raise your rates enough that maybe instead of having 20 or 30 clients a month, you only have 5 clients a month. But now they're paying probably double or triple or quadruple what you're being paid earlier on. The original problem was more the fact that we didn't have any clients, but now we have too many. So like I said, we want to get rid of some, and we want to keep the clients who really see value in us. Ultimately, like I said, in the beginning, we want to make sure quality of the service we provide is a really big one. The brand, the experience, the value we're bringing, all of these, we nurture clients, we treat them the same, but over time, we want to get rid of the ones who don't treat us the same. So having too many clients is a good problem to have. But like I said, cheap clients are crap clients. Cheap clients pay you 5 times less than what you're worth, but they take up 5 times more of your time. I guarantee some of the senior artists watching this are going to say like, yeah, that's so true, because it is. It's insane how unprofessional a lot of the cheap clients who are looking for a cheap deal are. They're not used to managing people, and it's a nightmare. High-priced clients equal quality clients, and that's the critical thing here, that they appreciate and see the value in your service, and they're excited to work with you, and ultimately they know what they want. And like I said before, like, they're busy too, so they're not going to micromanage you. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to earn more and work less by jacking up our prices. I'll mention my wife, first of all, who is in the vehicle wrap industry. She's like wrapped 50 cents, Lamborghini, worked Cardi B, Will Smith's like shared her work. She did a portrait of DMX, which apparently is going to be shown on like a big truck or whatever at DMX's funeral, which I think is a huge honor. Like, she's had a lot of success in her career, but she's also easily the highest paid vehicle wrap designer in the industry because she spent a lot of time on her brand. And essentially, she'll look at doing premium prices all around through doing like one-of-a-kind designs. In other words, she's not looking at download an image off the internet, put it on a car. It's custom-made, one-of-a-kind, quality work that is more for a very specific tailored market. That's been really critical for her, is that if everyone in her industry actually does charge $200 or $300 for a vehicle wrap, how do you charge $10,000 for a vehicle wrap? And the main thing is that through learning to position yourself as the luxury high end instead of the cheap client, but rather people who are like, okay, I've got a really expensive car and this is my baby and I want this to be something that's a showpiece that gets attention, that people talk about, this is newsworthy in my industry or my community. Ultimately, by doing that, she's positioning herself as someone that they will go to for that sort of thing. And it means that she can say no to most clients, because if someone comes in saying, I only do it for $500, that's all I've got. Originally, that was what she would be doing. She'd be taking on $10, $20, $500 jobs. And it meant she's doing all of this work to, roughly get like, let's say $5,000 or whatever she was going for at the time. By instead, and this is where the resistance comes in, saying raise your prices to $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Initially, that's the gut-wrenching feeling you have of like, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to scare away all my customers. But it's like, yeah, you're going to scare away the cheap ones, and the other ones are going to be like, okay, well, yeah, I'm willing to pay $5,000 for a wrap. Now, before, if you were earning, let's say, $15,000 a month doing vehicle wraps, but to do that, you had 20 clients. That's 20 people making your life hell. But suddenly, if you're working with 2 or 3 clients and they're all paying $5,000, $10,000, that's anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000 a month. So already you're getting doubling your money, but you're not dealing with nearly as many headaches. The main thing is that by doing this, it means, yeah, you've got less work to focus on, but it means that maybe you're not doing 8 jobs a week anymore. Maybe you're doing 4 jobs a month. The difference is that means you get to actually sit down and put your heart and soul into the work you do. It means that you're not doing the cheap and fast anymore. You're basically doing it in a way where you get to focus on the work that you enjoy. And the best part is that you get to pick and choose the clients you want to work with, because again, when you're in a position where you've got people lined up out the door and you're in high demand, that's when you finally are in a position to be able to stand up for yourself. Because before that, you were risking everything. Now, you're in a situation where it's like, well, if I've got too many clients, why don't I weed out the bad ones? But ultimately, the more great work you do, the more people come to you, the more that you get to focus on what matters. And it means that you can put your heart and soul into the work you do, and it's going to show in the work that you do. It's going to raise the bar further. It's not like you keep doing Fiverr quality work now that you have high-end clients. It means that instead, you get to really make your mark. You get to set yourself aside from everybody else by doing quality work, if that makes sense. So ultimately, that's what our goal is. We want to alienate our clients. We want to get rid of some of those, but it means that eventually you get to be doing the work that you decided to do in the beginning. Like, hey, I love art. I want to go and do this for a living. Unfortunately, in the beginning, you're scrambling. And this is the first time you get to breathe and you get to say, what do I want to be known for? What's the quality that I do? Who are the people that I work with? And when people start coming to you, you get to start asking up front, like, what's your budget? What's your schedule? And you get to work with them. If they come and say $500 and you say, well, usually I start at $5,000. And if they laugh and say, yeah, right, it's like, good, well, I dodged that bullet. I'm not working with someone who expects the work that I do to be done at a $500 level. But it means that the people who do come to you are the ones who love the work that you're doing. Like I said, I was chatting with Stuza from Instagram this morning. I'm mentioning this because it's just super relevant. We're doing a Zoom call, and that's one thing he mentioned with Google, Adobe, Microsoft for Xbox. All of these different clients that he had, I already knew the answer to this when I asked him, but what kind of work are they coming to you for? And he's like, well, first of all, they're paying a lot better than most of my clients. The ones who approach him are. Funny that. Like, you're applying for jobs, you're competing with everyone else, and you're doing it on a lower end price. But when someone's coming to you because they love your work, you're not competing with anyone because they found you. They targeted you because of what you've been posting online, because of what your brand, your reputation, all of these things are designed to put out. So when they come to you, not only are they coming to you because they appreciate your work and they're willing to pay you what you're worth, but the best part is they're coming to you because of the work that you already do, which means that they're not saying, hey, we'd love for you to do a really cool flying logo. It's like, well, that's not what I do. I do this really cool motion graphic stuff, or I do explosions and pyro and destruction. Whatever it is that your brand is known for, that's what they're attracted to you for, which means they're coming to you to get you to do what you're already good at doing and what you enjoy doing because you've been putting that stuff out there. In other words, don't put out work that doesn't align with the work that you want to get. If you keep putting out all this logo work, or you're putting out architectural renderings, but you're trying to get away from architectural renderings, what are you going to do? You're going to attract architectural renderings. But if you're doing really cool daily, like let's say with Beeple, like every day's, the kind of work that you enjoy doing, that's going to attract people who want that for them, clients who want your style of work. And that's the best kind. And that's ultimately where we're going to go. Okay, what do you think? Thanks for watching. I hope you got a lot from this. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you like this subject and you want me to go deep on it with other content as well, feel free to leave even a simple yes to let me know, and I'll definitely follow up with as much content, as much value I can give to you as possible. I also mentioned this earlier, but right now I just released a free course on how to raise your prices as an artist, how to attract your dream clients, as well as how to do your side hustle. I've been in the industry for 25 plus years, both as an artist, as well as a manager, hiring artists and managing them, paying them, so I'm very familiar with this topic. And for me, it's a pet peeve that artists use the excuse that there's no money in art, or art doesn't pay, art's not a real career. I want to eliminate the starving artist mindset for good. So that's why I want to share with you 8 hours of training, everything I know about how to price yourself and raise your rates and get what you deserve, as well as building your side hustle as well as an artist. So that way you can leverage your talents to be able to sell assets, be able to do NFTs, everything else in between. So lots to dive into. Check it out, pricingclass.com, or click the link below the video. You can check it out there. Thanks again for watching. So that's it from me. By the way, it would mean the world to me if you could like and subscribe to this channel, as well as share this video, because I would love to keep making more content for you. I appreciate you, and I look forward to continuing to serve you on your journey to success as an artist. I'm Allan McKay, and thanks for watching.